Hello, everyone, and welcome to 5 Reasons Why You Shouldn't Harm Your Loved Ones in Quarantine. Well, a lot of updates for today. First and foremost, the numbers. The numbers are staggering. 734 Henry Ford healthcare workers walked out last night when they arrived at work because there were too many patients for each one of them to provide adequate care to any one of them. So that is pretty devastating to know that now our healthcare workers and their ginormous hearts are now feeling overwhelmed and unable to do what they have already done in such a large capacity. There are 727 dead, and that is up from 617 yesterday. And there have been 17,221 diagnosed, which is up from 15,718 yesterday. So it's just under 2,000 since yesterday. So it's really, really important that everyone follows the stay-home order. As I mentioned yesterday, the legislature is meeting today to talk about an extension. Rumor has it that they will extend to May 1st the stay-home order. However, the governor is hoping for it to be extended 70 days, which would take us to June 9th. So stay tuned. That is going to be known later today. They've converted the suburban collection conference facility or convention facility into a COVID-19 care facility. It will be similar to what they did at the former Cobo, now TCF Center downtown. And they will continue to accept donations from other states and from other people as Michigan surges in this pandemic. Another thing just to mention, if you own a business, there is a great website. It's on wxyz.com, but they have a column to the right when you go to their landing page, and it says, we're open. And you can put in your name and your business's name, and it's just a list of open businesses so that hopefully we can all stay in business through this. Obviously, it's more challenging in some industries than others. And so that's really important for us to do. Again, that's on wxyz.com. Other issues that are interesting and have come up are there's now even more of a concern with jails and the complete inability to social distance within the jails. There is statistics from different counties. Some of them have 8 or more inmates to one cell. This is certainly not 6 feet apart from each other. The other issue is that only the deputies and the trustees, which are the well-behaved inmates, have masks or any sort of safety protection. So some numbers for you. In Oakland County Jail, there are 5 confirmed cases of COVID-19. In the Macomb County Jail, there are 4 confirmed cases. In the Wayne County Jail, 61 officers have tested positive and 0 inmates because they have not tested any inmates. Wayne County has done the best job of any county jail at granting early release, either because they're a vulnerable population or at the end of their sentences, or they're charged with non-dangerous felonies or misdemeanors. The Bureau of Prisons has also done some compassionate release, and many people have been released there. Macomb and other counties around the state are doing it as well. No surprise, Oakland has the least amount of defendants or inmates that have been released to avoid the pandemic and to make the jail safer. Probably the biggest news and update comes on the sex offender front, and that was yesterday. Judge Cleland in U.S. District Court, Eastern Division of Michigan, in what I would call the continuation of his landmark decision, Snyder versus Doe. In that decision, he declared the Michigan Sex Offender Registry and its ex post facto requirements, meaning that the law was applied to people who were convicted and they were forced to comply with it, even though it didn't exist at the time of their conviction. Judge Cleland ordered the states to create a new registration system or some legislation in order to comply with the constitutional requirements. And that was supposed to be done within 60 days. Because of the COVID-19 issues and the stay-at-home order, he found it impossible for the state to comply with his order. Therefore, yesterday, he issued a temporary order that is an injunction for reporting requirements. So it affects about 44,000 people across the state. Part of the issue is that at this moment the Michigan State Police cannot identify specifically who is affected and who would no longer have to register because of the findings by Judge Cleland. And then there's also the issue of the registrants who are trying to comply are being turned away because of a memo, which we discussed a few episodes ago, by the MSP saying being turned away because there's no lobby access at the reporting stations or reporting sites where they would have to go to be to renew their registration, pay the fee, show their license, change their address, whatever they're required to do. So basically what this did, the bottom line, is that for pre-April 11, 2011 offenses, the federal court has enjoined, which means they're precluding enforcement, registration, school zone, and fee violations of the Sex Offender Registration Act in Michigan that occurred or may occur between February 14th, 2020 through the end of the COVID-19 crisis. He also said, and this is the most significant part, because a lot of the violations of SORA are based on technical violations. You had, a non-working van with no on it, no engine in it, parked in your driveway, and you didn't report it as a vehicle that you own. That would be considered a technical violation of SORA, and those are all violations of SORA are strict liability, and it's very important to understand that strict liability means that you're guilty regardless of what your reason is or your misunderstanding of the law is. So in these circumstances, Judge Cleland said that registrants cannot be held strictly liable for SORA violations at this time. And any violations that had been cited prior to February 14, 2020, will be reviewed as possibly an improper and not allowable enforcement of the Sex Offender Registration Act. For those of you who are panicking, like, oh my God, people aren't going to register. This is going to be crazy. We're not going to know where they are. I urge you to take a deep breath and to understand that Michigan has one of the top 5 most inclusive registries in the entire country. Our registry does not distinguish between the minor offenses that can get someone put on our registry, such as a third urinating in public or indecent exposure, versus a criminal sexual conduct of a child. Unless you click on the statutes and compare them and read them, there are non-sex offenses that people can get on our registry. We have a huge amount of people who fall into this catch-all part of the act. The catch-all says that if you are convicted of an offense that is non-sexual by definition, but the underlying facts are inherently sexual in nature, then you are going to go on the registry. There's also issues depending on people's ages. There has been some reform in Michigan, but certainly Judge Cleland is going to make this a much more fair and a much more constitutionally appropriate provision that offenders will live by. The other thing that can get someone on the registry, other than being convicted of a sex offense, is there is something called the recapture provision. The recapture provision are people who, let's say that as a young person, you are convicted of a sex offense, whatever it may be. It could be a minor or major, it doesn't matter. If that is the case, and at that time, it was not a registerable offense, and then 20 years later, you steal a car. Because of the recapture provision, when you steal that car, you will now have to register as a sex offender for the 20-year earlier offense. So, there is also an abundance of research out there that says that public registries do not deter sex crimes, and that there are other measures that can be taken that have the outcome and the effects that were intended by the registry. So, as this injunction is put in place as of yesterday, and that the reporting provisions of SORA are not being enforced and can't be, there's no need to panic, really. There isn't. We talked a lot about domestic violence yesterday, so I just wanted to add that domestic violence is, although not necessarily on the rise right here in Michigan at the moment, it is on the rise all over the rest of Michigan and all over the world. And yesterday I talked about how you can dial 211 if you're a victim of domestic violence or child abuse, and that is the direct hotline for those types of offenses. Remembering that someone in a domestic violence situation is going to be arrested. That has not been relaxed by law enforcement. It is long-standing policy, and then you deal with all the other problems that we just talked about, some of them in the jail. There are many, many more. And we've talked about those in prior broadcasts last week and the week before. The other thing is, if you believe that you are a victim and you need help, and you can go to any pharmacy and you can tell the pharmacist mask 19. That is code for I'm in danger. So all of you should if you do know someone who may be at risk, these are certainly things that you can share with them. And then other things that are happening specifically at our firm. Today was a very, very big day for Carly. This morning I made the motion in front of Judge Michelson at U.S. District Court in the Eastern Division for her to be sworn into the federal bar. And it was really beautiful and really special time. We were very thankful to Judge Michelson for doing that. For those of you who don't know, both Carly, who's an attorney at the firm, and Gabby, our paralegal, are fluent in Spanish. So we can absolutely serve that community in all of their legal needs, whether they are parenting time related, custody related, divorce, or bond motions for loved ones, both in federal and state court. We are also doing a lot of work to get people off the sex offender registry who, because of the unconstitutionality, are no longer required to register because they're in a protected class, or they're just eligible to be removed because they've been on there long enough. So we are open, and we're regularly posting things on our website, kdlawgroup.com, that are resources, things to do. And this afternoon, I'll be writing an emergency motion to have a child who's in foster care return to his parents. And Carly's working on some interrogatories to get one of our clients divorced. So we are absolutely open. We're answering our phone. We're doing video conferences. We're doing informational sessions on different topics in addition to this session. So if anyone's interested, most important, I totally forgot. Next week, we're going to need to do 3 different focus groups on cases that are going to go to trial if we're out of quarantine, but in May. So please, 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 if you have, 2 hours of time and you want to be a mock juror, or you want to just give us your input on our case as we're preparing, send us a message. We'll add you to the Zoom, and we'll get that taken care of. So that is basically the updates for today. We do need probably 8 or 10 people for each one of those focus group mock juries. So I hope that you'll pass that information on to your friends and family. I will tell you that one of the cases has some pretty disturbing facts. It's a criminal sexual conduct case during the commission of a felony. The felony was making child porn, and there's some pretty, the graphic images will not be seen, obviously, but there's some pretty graphic facts. So I urge people who are sensitive to that to still join us, but I wanted to give you a heads up. You're really valuable to us as members of the community anytime we're preparing for trial, because you think like real people, and we appreciate that. So anyway, I'm going to scroll through and see if anybody has any questions. Eric, I don't understand your question. So if you want to send it more detailed, I'm happy to answer it. And I'm just going to give a shout out to my Nana. She is watching. I just found out from my sister, and she is almost 98 and still lives at home, and she has been at home for 3 weeks, and she's healthy and doing great. She's just a little bored. So if anyone wants to give a shout out to Nana, we can certainly pass those along to her as well. And, right now she's doing that. Oh, my Lisa, my granddaughter, she's the first. I'm going to take advantage of all that because I love her. Okay, so I got a question. Great, Jim. What is the capital of Nepal? I don't know. Does anyone else? Hurry. Running out of time. We need Ken Jensen from the greatest of all time Jeopardy player to answer that one for us. Well, anyway, I don't have any other questions that were posted. And so, as always, I'll remind you that the most significant reason that we don't want to harm our loved ones during quarantine is because very few people look good in horizontal orange stripes. And with that, I hope that you stay healthy, find some happy, and absolutely stay home. I will talk to you tomorrow at 1. And I'm seeing right here, the capital of Nepal is Kathmandu. Have a great day.